Good evening. Good evening, everybody. We're back again for another conversation with some really interesting ladies and we're going to be talking about community engagement today, and touch base on creativity and writing and see what we can kind of get into as we get on. The two ladies that I'm speaking with tonight are Mary Jeanne Merillet and Wilma Dragonetti, and I murdered their names, I'm sure, and so they'll have my neck later. So,
hi, good evening.
Hi,
you're fine.
Don't worry.
So these ladies both run and kind of organize the spoken word speakeasy in Brussels, where people come and they write and they read their writing. They do spoken word poetry. They do song. They sing songs as well as perform on stage, and they have special guests from time to time. And it's actually one of those places that I've been twice now, and each time it's been completely packed. And so it tells me that there's a good vibe there, and there's a good crowd of people. So let's go ahead and start out some of the questions and see how far we get on. So could you both tell me a little bit about yourselves? We can start with Wilma.
Yeah. About myself. How far do I have to go? No. I moved to Brussels about 6 years ago. I stopped counting, so it might be a bit more than that. And I am originally Italian. I've always been interested in writing, not necessarily in poetry. That is actually something I have found a new passion about when I arrived in Brussels and when I found out about Speakeasy. Brussels put me in touch with a lot of creativity, a lot of the culture. I like the cultural vibe of Brussels, and I stayed here because of that. And Speakeasy is a big part of that.
That's awesome. I think I agree with you. Brussels has a real huge creative scene, and it's really neat to see the different varieties of creativity that you get, because you get a mix of multinational creativity coming together. Sorry. And Mary Jeanne?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll I'll start off with, so I've been in Brussels for, I think, over 3 years now, so almost 4 years. I am half French, half Swiss, but I kind of grew up abroad, so not really in Europe. I also like to write, kind of like Wilma. I've done so from a young age, and I really like the whole cultural scene here as well. And I'm really happy that I actually met Wilma to collaborate on Speakeasy. So there.
How did you guys meet?
At Speakeasy.
All right, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
So
it used to be. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
So Speakeasy used to be run by Mixie and Marie-Jeanne. And then I just came in later because Mixie is now busy doing other things, and she's in Calais at the moment volunteering with the refugees, help refugees. And so they asked me to help out. But actually the funny story about how I found out about Speakeasy is that I went on a date, and my date brought me to Speakeasy. And then I never saw the guy again, but I never left Speakeasy.
Nice.
Well, there we go. Better than a date.
Much better than a date.
A long-term relationship. It's a good long-term relationship with the Speakeasy. That's really cool. That's minus the date, but I think I met Mixie the first time I went, and she was just visiting back from Calais just to kind of take a break out from the stresses of working there all the time with the refugees, because it can be very stressful. So could you guys, I mean, MJ, could you give me kind of some, how the speakeasy came about, how the spoken word Brussels came to be?
Yeah, sure. So I need to re-reference Mixie back here again, because when I first met her, she was running this other literary open mic event called, what's it called? Slow Salon. And these are like, she hosted them periodically, and they kind of had the same format as Speakeasy now. So, open mic sessions with a little break in between. And I was new in Brussels. I didn't really know anybody, and I just kind of went to this event and I read, and then we talked afterwards, and we kind of continued on the conversation how it would be cool to set up something more regular. In Brussels, that was international, because there's a Dutch open mic and there's a French open mic, but there was no kind of like in between, you can read in any language kind of mic. So we talked about it a lot. And then at some point I moved into flat share, a really big flat share, and we had this big basement. And I was like, well, maybe we should start it up in here. So we came up with the Speakeasy name, which is like, the whole prohibition in the basement kind of underground thing. That's which cool. We thought was fun. And so it started there. The first one was in the basement, and we ran quite a few other ones in the basement as well. And Wilma, you were there for do you come to the first edition, or did you come to the second edition?
I don't know which edition it was, but so my first speakeasy was the one where the basement was flooded and you were in Saint-Gilles.
Oh God, yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, we had a poltergeist. Yeah. So that's a little bit how it started. And then eventually we had to put a cap on the door, because the basement could only hold 25 to 30 people without being a fire hazard. So we actually had to turn some people away at some point, because there were just too many people downstairs. And then Mixie found or started this wonderful partnership with Piano Fabrique, and where we moved there, and we've been there ever since.
How long ago did you move there?
I think we were running the open mics in the basement for almost a year. Amazing. And then afterwards we moved there.
Okay. So
yeah.
About what year did it come about when you guys started doing Speakeasy?
I think we've been running for about 3 years now.
Yeah, I think Piano Fabrique has been already, it's the
Piano Fabrique has been yeah.
Oh God.
Piano Fabrique, we've been doing it in Piano Fabrique for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And we did it in the basement for about 1 year, and then we moved out.
It sounds like you have never had a slow night. I mean, do you have slow nights, or is it seems like it's always packed. Everybody always wants to come, and it seems so filled with energy.
Well,
yeah, you take it. Take it,
yeah. You give me the slow night, okay? No, I mean we've had a couple of slow nights, or at least a couple of slower nights. I think what we really enjoy, that always happens, that there's always, even if there's not a lot of people, good energy and people who are enthusiastic about either sharing their words or listening to someone else's words. So I think the amount of people maybe doesn't count as much as the fact that we think that we manage to keep it very open and very welcoming, and therefore it attracts people that are in the same state of mind, or at least in the same idea of how an open mic should be.
That's it. I mean, yeah. You guys, do push the real positive energy and make sure that everybody's on board with, cheering on the performers. And I thought that was really awesome, because that was the first time I had ever done spoken word, was when I came to do the Speakeasy with you all. And it was really nice having that kind of positivity and that reinforcement, because it made me want to come again. we do it again. And that was really awesome for me.
Well, it was cool to have you on stage. So yeah.
So you're coming up on 2 years now. So do you know when the second birthday is? Are you doing anything special, or like, it isn't the third birthday, but
actually it would be the third birthday.
It would be the third birthday. The second birthday where you're at. So
yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should do a special edition.
What's the date? I don't know the date of the birthday.
I would have to find. I think we started in September, so I think it might be this year, but like September this year. Can check that. Maybe we can make a special Speakeasy birthday edition. Have a cake and blow out the candles.
We can come back here as well and work on promoting it as well. That would be cool.
Yeah.
If you're all down for it anyway. Do you know about how many shows that you've put on? I guess I suppose you put on one a month. You one every month, and then for 3 years. I mean, that's
a lot.
Yeah, it's one a month, but then we take 2 breaks.
Yeah.
We kind of follow the school calendar more than the official calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, so we break in July, and then we come back in October, and then we break, in December. We don't do in January, but we come back in February, so that's a shorter break. But this year we are planning on running some writing workshops and stuff over the summer period, so we don't lose the momentum.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool to know. What are you going to do? Like, what kind of thing were you thinking about with the writing workshops?
I think, so we've run some in the past with Mixie, kind of finding a group of people that are motivated to write a little bit of performance type poetry. So there would be a workshop before, and then we would have a performance session afterwards where they would just write to perform. And, we could run a bunch of writing exercises during it, give feedback, encouragement, etc. So something like that. I don't know. Wilma, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think the idea is mostly to have a positive get-together, inspire each other, maybe exchange tips and tricks on how to write when inspiration is gone and out of the window. And then the other obvious advantage of having a group of people together is to be able to give each other feedback, not only on the writing content and the writing style, but also on the performance aspect, especially if the idea is to then come to a speakeasy and perform. The idea being not having like an official evening event where there's the reading, but more of a reading within each other and commenting, obviously in like a positive and constructive spirit.
Absolutely, I can totally dig that, because I noticed last time when I went up, I was thinking there's stuff I have to work on with performance, because there's so much more in the way of theatrics to doing spoken word than just coming up and reading your poetry. And if that's what you want to do, if you want to get into that genre of poetry, then there's different ways of writing, and I've already started seeing that with stuff that I've been doing with my writing, just because I've taken the time out to write poetry so that I can bring it to the speakeasy just to read it in that regard. So that's really awesome that you guys want to set that up. Would you do it in Brussels, or would you want to be doing it outside of Brussels, or?
No, the idea would be Brussels, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe like because it will be over the summer in a park,
Yeah.
So it could be like we ran 1 or 2 of these in the past. We call them sparks. So speakeasy in the park.
Nice.
Yeah, outside in nature helps with inspiration.
That's really cool.
Bit of drinks and food.
Yes, drinks and food. Yes.
Well, I can also try and what I'll do is I'll promote that as well. Once we get to once I talk to you guys and you guys sorted information on it, I've got I know lots of people that can travel probably over from England, and wouldn't mind coming out to Brussels to get acquainted with Brussels, because Brussels is a beautiful city. I mean, architecture-wise, and then you add on the variety of creative culture that's here. It's absolutely amazing. I think people overlook it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that would be
so.
So has there been any major changes in the past 5 years for you all with Speakeasy that has made it either better or worse, or?
Personally, me, like in our lives.
I mean, in your lives, or with the venue, or the performances at all.
MJ, do you want to take it first?
I think that it's always been nice to have it there as something that was fairly regular, where you always know you can go and try out new material, and people are friendly and encouraging, and the atmosphere is pretty nice every time. I don't know if that's the way that you meant the question in.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way of actually looking at it. Yeah, I mean, I think that in the way you have it set up, I think it's absolutely excellent. It makes it really easy to come in there and read, and to be wanting to be a performer. And
yeah.
Sorry, Wilma?
If I may, yeah. I just because at the last Speakeasy, there was a woman, Fleur, who used to come a lot when the Speakeasy was held in the basement. And she had never come so she knew that it had moved to Piano Fabrique, and then never had the courage, she said, to come to Piano Fabrique, because she felt it was much more of an official venue than the basement used to be. Of course, being a basement, someone's house, it makes it immediately a lot more intimate. And I think, but MJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel maybe the basement had more of a regulars bunch.
What? Yeah, no, I think you're right there. There was a very everybody kind of knew everybody, and I feel like now we have so many new faces that come in every time, which is great because it totally adds diversity to the event, and but then we also still have our regulars, like for example, Beltran, I'm thinking of, who really flourished and grew, and he comes every time. He loves to read, and Jane as well, who's reads
No, of course we still have some regulars, and Fleur actually, which she finally came last time at Speakeasy, and she said, "Oh, I'm so happy I finally came, because I was afraid of this official stage, but it actually feels still the same, the same warm crowd." So I was honestly really happy to hear that that even though it's an official cultural center situation, it still keeps that vibe.
Yeah,
we don't boo people off stage. We only applaud.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that opens up a lot for content creators, and they feel a bit easier, and they can move forward with their art. And I think that's. How do you feel that inspires a community?
How Speakeasy inspires the community. Yeah. I think, I don't know. It's difficult to understand it. I used to be just in the audience before, and now I participate in the organization, and it is a very different way of living the evening. Where before I was a lot more I could really follow every single performance. I got stressed about mine, and that was pretty much my evening. And now I realize that there are so many other things that we as organizer have to be aware of and attentive to, that in a way a little bit I lose the content of what happens. So that's a little bit sad from my end. But I think in terms of a community, it really depends on the people who come. Like the people who come make the atmosphere. Yes, we put ourselves out there and we try and make it as warm and welcoming and happy and enthusiastic as we can. But then it really comes to the people who decide to come to the open mic and repeatedly come and share their words, and the type of things that they say within their poetry. I think also the content of the poetry that is read during Speakeasy is very important, and it's usually also open and different, but at the same time, I think we never had the problem. Hopefully, I'm thinking my touching wood. Hopefully, never. Yeah, fingers crossed. Touching wood. It will not happen. But we didn't have the problem where we wondered, oh no, this is something that can hurt someone. How do we get this person off stage without censoring someone?
Yeah.
Hopefully it will not happen.
Do you imagine that you would put kind of rules in place that would kind of, if people hit those, if they, I guess, clash with those rules, then you'd probably be able to say, this is, where we stand and draw the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do advertise it as, well, when we initially open up the open mic, we make sure that we say it's, it's a safe space. And I guess kind of like the vibe that we give off is that it's a safe space for people to be respectful of each other and to support and encourage each other. So, performing pieces that could be hurtful or incite hurtful feelings or in other people is just wouldn't be acceptable at Speakeasy. Yeah.
Totally understand.
Yeah. And also maybe MJ, you maybe remember better, but we had, when we did in the past, a collaboration with the Rainbow House, I think.
Yeah.
And there it was more explicitly said what a safe space is and what it entails, and that a number of content was explicitly not accepted, which we don't regularly do now. We didn't feel like it's necessary. We didn't.
Yeah, because like the general vibe that we give off is not, and anybody who's been to the event or listens to performers that go on stage would kind of get the feeling that that kind of stuff is not really, it's not cool to bring that to Speakeasy. But yeah, maybe we could start defining a safe space at the beginning of the Speakeasy, or set some rules in place.
I also guess, like, as much as social media obviously helps to make Speakeasy known to the public, to a wider audience, I think a lot of it is word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth. Word of mouth. Good, you're super close.
It was Jane that got me in. Jane was the one that got me in. So
yeah, so I think people who liked it and who liked the vibe invite their friends, and therefore they invite people who are more or less on the same page.
Yeah, which is good.
That sounds good to me. I think the vibe has been awesome. So every time I've gone.
Yay!
And I think it's really, I think what you do is as organizers is really encouraging as well with social media, because I've seen Wilma taking lots of photos, and I know that MJ, you've been pushing the publishing and the blog. Could you tell me a little bit about those two aspects?
MJ, do you want to do the blog?
Do you want to kick it off, and I'll...
Okay, I'll do the photos, you'll do the blog. Well, the photos, I think the photos is always a nice thing to have as a memory of the event itself, and it also gives an impression of what the vibe is for those who haven't come yet and who might end up on the Facebook page, and then try and wonder what it looks like. But it's also a very nice thing if you've been a performer during the night to then go back a few days later and find your own photo while performing. I know that when I've been to other stage, I always appreciate it if there's a photo of me performing and I'm like, oh yeah, then I remember that evening even more fondly. So I think it's an easy thing for us to do. And then it's something nice for performers and audiences to have later on.
Yeah, and I think eventually we'd like to start to compile an anthology of people that have come and performed at Speakeasy into booklets that they can keep and share around and promote Speakeasy with, I guess, in a way as well. But it's their words on paper, printed out, or online. So it's just a nice additional perk for the regulars also to have.
Yeah, we had an idea of a printed anthology already for a few months, maybe last year. Did it start last year or something?
We were talking about it last year, yeah.
Yeah, but then the printing is not cheap, first of all. Oh, yeah. And we didn't want to launch directly into a printed version, so we thought that a blog, or there was a blog already started from the beginning of Speakeasy, right?
Yeah, it was there. We just weren't using it as much as we are currently. That's it. Yeah.
So we thought we might revive that first and see how that went, how the response would be, and then maybe think about the printed version later on.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Exciting plans ahead.
That's a very exciting point. It kind of runs into like the next question I was kind of thinking, like, what are your plans for Speakeasy in the next 5 years?
Oh God, 5 years.
Oh, the 5-year question.
I feel like you're committed to the relationship here. I think.
Well, we laugh because our planning goes pretty much from month to month.
Yeah, kind of. But we do have some ideas, like for example the anthology, or teaming up with, I guess, more festivals in the future. Maybe bringing in more international features.
Yeah, and possibly also working more with Belgian-based stages.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some very, very good stages around not only Brussels, but Antwerp, Ghent, and I think also a collaboration with these stages that are closer to us in distance, geography-wise, and that do great work. It will be interesting in the future. Yes.
To work, I guess, closer with them and collaborate.
So I guess you want to do an anthology, and you want to keep up with the blog, and you want to try and spread out around Brussels and get into other events. That all sounds really amazing. It sounds like, a lot of energies there, and there's a lot of chances to even meet up with other people, printers and publishers and so you can work on those kind of angles that you're wanting to work on. And I think that's incredibly inspiring, especially for the people that come out to your show all the time. Do you have any other aspirations for Speakeasy, or that's kind of what do you feel?
I think, at least from my end, at the moment, it stays relatively, how to say, small. Small is not the right word that I'm looking for. It will come. But mostly because I have a full-time job on the side, and therefore the time that I managed to allocate to Speakeasy stays limited. So yeah, for the time being, the plans are relatively
shorter term, like keep the stage alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make sure people come every month, and,
stick to the plan.
Continue to spread the word. And then, we'll try and do other stuff like the writing workshops that we talked about, branching out in different ways, and obviously time constraint dependent. But yeah, it definitely is something that we both, I think I can say we both would like to keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
modest was the word I was looking for.
That's a nice word, Wilma. It's a very nice word.
Yeah, which, doesn't mean that in a longer future or far away future, it doesn't become something more important in both our lives, and we might make choices where we decide to prioritize this kind of work in respect to the office job that we both have at the moment. But yeah, for the moment, it's mostly a modest engagement
effort.
Yeah.
So a lot of powered by volunteer work, essentially, is what you're saying. Yeah. And that's awesome, though, because that shows that the community is there, and that shows that you all have been sticking by it because you know how much there's to that. And the potential of Brussels, I think, is quite amazing. It's a transient city, but there's a lot of people there, and I think there's potential to be tapped into as well. I've seen a couple of powerful young readers come out and do some readings there, and I keep thinking, these people are absolutely going to be doing more poetry and publishing their own poetry, and it's nice that they're coming out to Speakeasy to participate with you all, and that you make it such a warming and loving environment in that respect. Pardon me. But so what are your favorite parts about running events like this and going to types of events like this?
Ooh, favorite parts. I think personally, I am at the same time afraid and excited about the actual night. Because being an open mic, we never know until we start. If there's going to be people, if there's going to be audience, if there's going to be people who want to read. So yeah, it is at the same time, scary.
I echo that.
There's always the chance that there will be no one and we'll have to entertain people for an hour all alone. No one, it's not true, because we always try and find at least one guest. So at least the 30 to 30 minutes are done. But extremely exciting and rewarding once the evening starts and people start coming up and bringing their energy at their different styles. So yeah, I think the actual night is probably my favorite part, as much as it's scary.
Yeah, I would echo that. I don't know how like nervous we are the half an hour before the speakeasy starts. We're like putting our list together. We're like, oh, let's put this person in here. Oh, counting the minutes. But yeah, once it starts, it's magic. It's kind of magical to see all these new faces come on stage and they're performing these incredible things. And you know, it's cool to be able to facilitate that, I guess.
Yes. And the dreadful list.
The dreadful list. Oh my goodness. I think we might need to start getting a bell or something like that, to keep the time. Yeah.
Yeah, time kind of slips out of us sometimes.
Yeah, it's very difficult to tell someone to stop performing. Now, your 5 minutes are up. Yeah.
Do you I was gonna say actually, with, I mean, the nice thing about that is even if you have a fewer readers or anything happening like that, the venue's really nice. The venue's awesome. You've got food, you've got drinks, you've got outdoors. Right now, it's about to turn. The weather's about to become amazing, and then it's gonna be open and beautiful, and people are gonna be able to crowd in. And does that make the crowd become bigger because of the weather change for the outside kind of floating in?
Ooh.
Not historically speaking. No.
It's actually, I think, usually the opposite.
Yeah. People don't want to come in because the weather's so nice outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Maybe this year will be a surprise.
Are you able to speak out in the courtyard? Do you know?
It's too.
Well, they have they have neighbors around,
right?
So we know that our official curfew is at 10. We never finish at 10. But yeah, and the reason why it is at 10 is mostly because neighbors, then otherwise they would complain, and then the whole cultural center is affected by neighbors' complaints, if there are complaints. So they try to keep it to a minimum.
So we did a great job last time, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, it would be quite sad to see it go back underground. I mean, kind of Renegade, go back underground, the Speak Club. Nobody talks about the Speak Club.
Yeah, we have a password at the door and everything.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because we noticed that Piano Fabrique has a small basement look-like space.
Yeah, that's true. We were like, oh, this could be interesting. In the summer when it's hot outside, so it'll be really cool inside. Air conditioning. Yeah, natural air conditioning. Yeah.
Well, we haven't checked.
Oh, haven't actually asked. So, yeah. Be for another time. Perhaps for an X-rated edition of Speakeasy.
Yes.
We had one of those in the past. It was a roaring success.
Wow.
Yeah.
We can bring it back. I'm on board with that. That sounds awesome. I'm on board with events when they get fun, and I'm on board with it right now because it's awesome and it's fun for me, and I will continue to come as much as I can. But yeah, if special events sound like a lot of fun, just changing up the way people will have to put together their writing or their performance to come out and play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we tend not to do themed evenings, because then everyone can just come with the text that they prefer or whatnot. And even when we had themed events, it never was if you have something that doesn't fit the theme, then you're not going to read. Then it's never in the spirit. But it's fun sometimes to have a bit more of a direction. So if people want to have fun with it, they have. And the X-rated, it was a good one. It was a good success.
What happened at the X-rated?
That was funny. Oh, what didn't happen in the X-rated? No, there were a lot of saucy, racy stories, poems / things that were read, and this one guy who actually has performed quite a few times at Speakeasy on guitar. He sang a bunch of he sang quite a few very saucy folk songs, and then at one point he got audience participation, so everyone was supposed to sing a certain refrain from this song. He printed it out.
Copies, yeah.
It was really funny, and so everyone was in the basement. They're singing these really racy lyrics, and it was just really funny, and laughing, of course. So yeah.
Well, we had a couple of serious ones at the same event too. So it's always very nice to see that there's a whole range of takes on the subject.
Yeah, that's true. And it's good. Then you just need to know how to balance it so that not too many people read the sad stuff and not too many people read all the happy stuff before and then all the sad stuff afterwards, and it just
Do you get a feel for your readers? Like the people who come up to read, that is.
What do you mean? Sorry?
I said, then are you getting a feel for your readers, the people who come up, who come to the Speakeasy on a regular basis? You know that there's kind of there's people who come and they they're going to give you the heavy hitters, and they're going to give you like the kind of real get into your heart kind of pull on your heartstrings kind of stuff.
I mean, if we've heard them speak before, then we kind of know their style, so it's easier to place them in the evening. But obviously there are lots of new people that come in. We have no idea what they're going to do. It's a surprise when they go up on stage. We're like, should we put this one after this one? I don't know what she's going to read. I don't know what language she's going to read in. But then it always kind of works out,
Yeah. That's also one of the reasons why we keep changing the lineup. Let's say there's a lot of stages that prefer to follow either the order in which people have signed up, or they just do a complete random order. But yeah, I think we put some extra effort in trying to make a lineup that is mixed enough, also in styles, so that the energy keeps up and the audience doesn't fall into either depression or roaring laughter for a full hour. But yeah, as MJ says, it's difficult sometimes when we don't know what kind of style a person's going to be in. So we keep moving the list.
The list around, and sometimes we accidentally forget people, but we always remember them in the end. No, yeah. Everybody who put their name on the list has read, so don't do any bumping, or everybody must pass.
Do you have to have come so many times before you kind of just nudge at you both that you might be coming before you can just kind of slide onto the list before getting to the Speakeasy?
Oh, you mean do people feel like they need to sign up on a list before coming, or that they can just come sign up? Well, we do have people that message us before the event being like, oh, I'd love to read something. Can you put me down for it? So we always say, yeah, sure, that's fine. We'll stick you down for it. But a lot of times it's just, we kind of explain them too that it's an open mic, so you can show up and, depending on time and spaces, you can read. Like last time we were really booked, like so full that there just wasn't space for anybody else. So we had to be a little bit stricter with the sign up, basically. That's it. No, Wilma, what would you say?
Yeah, and also, I mean, people who tell us on Facebook, we don't guarantee the spot forever. If they're not there when we start calling people up, we can't guarantee the spot to be there an hour in, because of course, people then have change their minds, or something happens and they can't come anymore. And if there are other people who want to read and are actually present, then of course we can't take it. They'll lose their spot, basically. So the safest way is to come before the start of the actual mic and put your name down on the evening.
Well, it sounds like it sounds like we're answering some really good questions for people who have never come before, that are really, if they do come, they're going to be able to know what's going to be happening there, and like how they kind of fit in, and how everything kind of happens. With you the last time I came, this month actually, you had a special guest on, and I was wondering how many special guests have you had? Do you do it quite often, or do you kind of luck out and sometimes you get some people, and who's been your kind of biggest guest or your favorite?
MJ?
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about favorites here. But it's like part of our like format is to always have one feature speaker who will perform either music or spoken word for like a longer period of time. So we generally give them 20, sometimes 30 minutes, and they might do a segment in the first half and a segment in the second half, especially if they're playing music. I think we've had a lot of really awesome features that have come to perform and to play. They're all pretty unique and special, I'd say. So yeah.
I guess in another way of saying it, do you have anybody that you were like maybe a fan of that you were able to get to come participate?
Well, I think one of the things to maybe precise is that most times it's musicians that we get, because the open mic is mostly people who read their poetry, and then the music gives also a nice break and a nice different way of getting poetic words with the music. So I think we've had more musicians as guest artists rather than poetry or spoken word artists.
Yeah, had a few of those, but mostly musicians. Yes, I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, if someone we've been fans of, we could. I don't think we're at that stage yet.
We do like a lot of the performers.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Oh, I just remembered his name too, Robert Islam. It just popped up in my head. Or Robert Isaf.
Isaf, yeah. No, usually, I mean, we always like the people that we invite. We never invite people we don't like.
Oh.
Just to make it clear. But the thing is that they always come. Basically, we can't pay them, because the whole thing is on a volunteer based. We don't have the money to give them to pay them to come, and which obviously limits a lot what we can do on who we can invite. They get food and drinks during the night, and Piano Fabrique sometimes manages to reimburse their travel costs if they're not coming from Brussels. But that's about what we can offer. So obviously limited means.
So how do you guys generate funds then?
We don't.
Okay. Just all nonprofit kind of volunteer.
It's totally nonprofit. Piano Fabrique lets us have the space for free, and they give us so they're really awesome actually. Piano Fabrique, they help us with the sound, and it's really cool that they have a bar there too, because that's very helpful as well. I think it brings a lot of the crowd in. I'm kidding. Yeah, they're coming for other reasons too. But yeah, so they're really awesome, and yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's totally nonprofit, volunteer type situation.
Yeah, I mean, Piano Fabrique gets the money for the.
Well, they do get, yeah. So we bring in the crowd.
The
crowd buys the drinks, which is
but
good.
We don't have to pay Piano Fabrique, and and that's it.
Yeah, which is good.
It's a nice arrangement from my perspective. I think that sounds, kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and it's been going like that for a couple of years now, and it seems like you have a pretty good relationship with them, and that's, I think, a really nice thing to have, because it means that you have the potential to keep doing this, which you enjoy so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So continuing on about like special guests, how do you go about getting your special guests?
It depends.
Yeah, it could be it could be a contact, or someone that put us in contact with them, or a word of mouth type thing, or we might post something on Facebook page and people will respond.
Yeah, so sometimes it's people coming to us, offering to come. It was, for example, the case of both Robert, Isef, and Blaise, who came to last edition, where they contacted us and they asked if we could do something together, or if they could come. And I think there's maybe a slight difference with the musicians, where it's more us either hearing them somewhere or knowing them, or through some word of mouth, and then we ask them if they're willing to come.
Yeah, some of them might have come to Speakeasy before, so like seen a few editions and they feel like they want to perform. Yeah, so lots of different ways, I think.
That's really nice. That's actually, I think it's easy to really find music in Brussels, so I can understand how you come across musicians that you can find and ask and get into the spots. Well, before we kind of close out the interview, is there anything you want to say about Speakeasy to new crowds, anybody that, or old crowds, or like just to kind of push the message, or?
Sure, come.
Yes, come to Speakeasy. We can promise you a really nice, encouraging atmosphere, especially if you're a new performer and you are shy about going on stage. We're a very welcoming and warm kind of audience, and yeah. So come along and bring some friends.
Yeah.
That also want to read.
Yeah, and remember, you can read in any language you're most comfortable reading in. You can perform with instruments. I mean, we don't do the slam rules, so we're very flexible. You come, you read from paper, you perform by memory. It's really up to you what you do in your 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're very open.
And you get a drink.
And get a drink if you perform. If you perform.
And if you don't know if you want to perform yet, you can always come and check out everyone else, criticize, applaud, and then come next time.
Yeah, if you're feeling more inspired or, courageous to take the stage. Plus, there's a bar, so if you're not feeling courageous, visit the bar and then come up on stage, liquid courage, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, I would say it's nice to bring friends along. That's this encouragement in its own right, because probably take the mick if you don't. So yeah, well, that was really awesome. I really appreciate you both, MJ and Wilma, for coming out and speaking on the channel today, and pushing the community of speakeasy and spoken word of Brussels. Hopefully, we can coordinate more and get more people out. I'm really looking forward to coming back out. And I hope that, I get the chance to do it, probably even work more and closer together with you all and see if I can be any help to the community as well. So thank you, MJ Merillet and Wilma Dragonetti, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
It was nice chatting.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'll be back probably later this week, everyone, and it was really nice being able to do the stream again. So I just want to say a good night and thank you to everyone who was participating and everybody that wanted to stop by and see the show. So have a lovely evening. Thank you. Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.